Kettletown State Park, situated in the towns of Southbury and Oxford, Connecticut, USA, contains 605 acres. Early colonists reportedly traded one brass kettle for the use of the land for hunting and fishing, hence the name Kettletown. Today, the park provides group camping, family camping with flush toilets and hot showers, a beach in a cove that looks out to Lake Zor, picnic areas, and an extensive system of hiking trails. Today, I would like to spend some time talking about the hiking trails. Kettletown State Park has about 7 miles of blazed hiking trails. These are all maintained by dedicated volunteers from the Connecticut Forest and Park Association. These trails are part of the larger statewide Blue Blaze trail system, which includes over 825 miles of trails in Connecticut, all maintained by CFPA volunteers. Let's take a look at what's here. For a small state, Connecticut has a wide variety of terrain, and this is reflected in the trails in Kettletown State Park. Many of the trails reach into secluded woodlands, others travel along the high ridges, still others hug the waters of Lake Zor, and some do it all. Let's look at a few. I'm walking along the Brook Trail right now in Kettletown State Park, and perhaps you can hear Kettletown Brook in the background. It's a fair-sized little stream that runs through the park, and the Brook Trail runs for a good half of its length or so right along the side of the brook. This is a great place to spend a hot summer's day. It's probably about 10 degrees cooler here than it is anywhere else in the outside world. There's nice scenery, the water flowing over the rocks and everything else. This is just a very nice way to spend a day out here wandering through the woods in Kettletown State Park. And right now I'm on my way to what's my favorite spot in the park, which we'll pick up again in a moment. Close to where the Brook Trail intersects the Miller Brook Connector Trail, there's a kind of an open area, and it passes fairly close to the Kettletown Brook. And as I walk over here more towards the brook, you can probably get a feel from the sound. The water from here comes rushing down through some rocks, through a little chute in the rocks, into a deep pool, and continues on down the brook. There's a spot here that looks just like you could be standing in the woods in New Hampshire someplace. It's just absolutely gorgeous. And again, it's one of those nice cool spots where you can be and enjoy the coolness and enjoy being surrounded by Mother Nature, watching the water as it works its way and slowly erodes the rocks away, making that chute a little bit bigger. During the spring time when the frost is coming out of the ground, or any time after a heavy rain, if you were to come down this way, the water coming through here would be just incredible. It's just roaring right along in here. Very impressive to look at, but it's also very enjoyable just from a nice, relaxing, a good place to sit and stand and just kick back and relax. You can see the forces of nature at work everywhere around here. Rocks that are slowly being eroded, trees that have grown for years and years and then had enough erosion take place around them so that they had to fall into the stream. The water pouring around as it has for millennia. There's really no need to go to great distances to see nature at its best. We have it right here in beautiful Connecticut, and I would certainly recommend coming to Kettletown State Park as another example of nature at its very best. And another nice thing about this particular part of the park, after you've finished enjoying the view, enjoying the nice cool walk down the Brook Trail to this intersection, depending on which way you go, if you follow the Miller Brook Connector Trail, which is blazed blue and purple, you're probably within a couple of 100 yards of the beach. Just a short walk down the trail, a bridge across the Kettletown Brook, another short distance, and you're at the beach, ready to enjoy some sun and sand. It's clear that the glaciers were here during the last ice age. Boulders large and small dot the landscape. Size from a Volkswagen to a small bus, a hike on any of the trails will bring you face to face with these reminders of our icy past. The trails follow a variety of terrain. They follow old wood and farm roads, wander along streams, climb hills to the ridgeline, and follow along the crest of the hills. Most trails are easy to moderate in difficulty. Some have steep climbs, other an occasional climb up a rock face. However, they are not stroller friendly. There are too many rocks and roots to make it easy to do anything but walk on the trail. Please be sure any young hikers can be carried or can walk by themselves. Trails utilize a standardized blaze system to mark the trails. Intersections are well marked, identifying all trails. The trails are blazed with a blue and some other color blaze, which identify the treadway and announce approaching turns and intersections. Connecticut has a great many natural features that are very attractive. It also has some very curious man-made features. Among the ones that I always come across, and you find a lot of them, especially here in the northeast part of the country, are the stone walls. Kettletown State Park has its fair share of stone walls, some intersecting the trails, some crossing the trails, and some that you can see off in a distance, off in the woods. And I'm not really an expert on stone walls or much of anything else for that matter. Several things always piqued my curiosity about those stone walls. I always wonder who was it that built them and when, and what prompted them to build them. Why do they put these stone walls where they put them? And most importantly of all, for me at least, how did they build them? I can't imagine the time and the effort it must have taken for manpower or horsepower or ox power or however it was done to move all those rocks from around the surrounding fields to get them all organized and more or less in a straight line. I've always been amazed at that, and I have to say that if you like stone walls, there's bunches of them here in Kettletown State Park. Come on by, take a walk, take a look, and try to imagine what it must have been like hundreds of years ago when those walls were first put up. Were the trees still here? Was it open pasture land? Was it farmland? What could it have been like? What kind of lives could the people had that lived around here at that time? I've always found that to be fascinating to consider what it was like and how in the heaven's name did they do all of this stuff. And there's still plenty of rocks. There's still plenty of rocks around here, but nonetheless they took the time and the effort to move all the rocks that are involved in these walls, and there must be hundreds of thousands of them, and used them for some purpose. I wonder why, I wonder who, and I wonder how. And sometimes those old rock walls look like they might have been used to form a dam or a spillway, as this one here on the Crest Trail. This is about 100 yards or so from the intersection of the Crest Trail and the Campground Trail and the Brook Trail. The trail crosses right across the middle of the stream, and it's also across the middle of the wall. But it's obvious that this must have been built to hold back the water, or to divert the water, or to direct the water for some reason. Again, who or why? And again, how? Little bits of local lore. There are 3 charcoal hearth sites located right on the trails, the hiking trails here in Kettletown State Park. So since there's 3 that we know of right on the trails, I strongly suspect that at one point there's probably others that are scattered around through the woods in various and sundry locations. Just to give you some idea of what the sign says, it's very brief. It says supplying fuel to local furnaces and foundries from the late 18th to the early 20th century. So I'm looking around here at all these trees, and the conclusion that I have to draw is that there was no trees here during the late 18th to the early 20th century, that everything we see here is late growth, and everything at some point in time was probably clear-cut to be brought to these locations, heaped up, set on fire, slowly burned and reduced to charcoal, and sent off to wherever the customers were. Perhaps you can hear that. There's a plane in the background just passing by now. Oh, looks like he might have taken off from the lake. My goodness. One thing you'll see is around here a lot when you come in during the right time of the year, there'll be plenty of boats and water skiers down on Lake Zor, which is the lake that faces the park between Oxford and Southbury. There's no end of boats and water skiers and everybody having a good time between the beach at Kettletown State Park and the Oxford Town Beach, which is Jackson Cove at the other end of the park. Between those 2 points, there's plenty of activity, plenty of boat launch sites, and a good time is had by all. Kettletown has several overlooks on the trails. This particular one overlooks Lake Zor, and it's on the Crest Trail. You can probably see about a mile or so from here up and down the river. This is really the Housatonic River. It's been dammed up and has been turned into Lake Zor. Directly across the river from us, Pridden Falls. You may be able to hear it a little bit in the background. Very nice. It's across the river. It's in the state forest that's right across the river from us here. Another nice place to take a hike sometime on a good day and enjoy the view and soak your feet in the falls, and a nice way to cool down. From where we are right now, we're on the Crest Trail. We're at the northern of 2 overlooks that are marked on the Crest Trail, and we can probably see about a mile. In a little while, the leaves are going to be out, and it'll be very difficult to see much of anything on any of these lookouts, unfortunately. But as it is right now in early spring, you can still see for quite a ways. On a clear day, you can see forever. If we continue down the Pomperog Trail, walking down through various parts of the park, we'll eventually come to the very end of Kettletown State Park. There's a bridge that crosses over a little stream. That's where I am now. Perhaps you can hear the stream in the background. And when we finish coming out of this and across the bridge and up a couple of steps, we find ourselves in Jackson Cove, which is one of the Oxford town parks. Has a boat launch and a beach and a playground, but it's mostly reserved for Oxford residents. However, the Pomperog Trail does continue south from here and goes another several miles and finally crosses the parking lot here at Jackson Cove and wanders up and down through the hillsides of Oxford and comes out and finally ends at Fiddlehead Road in Oxford. But we are at the end of our trail right now with Pomperog Trail and the end of the road at Kettletown State Park. I hope you enjoyed this brief look at one of the gems of the Connecticut State Park system. I look forward to meeting you on the trail. You'll recognize me. I'll be the one with the happy, contented look on his face. See you there.